right, thank you. Good morning. I'd like to call this regular board meeting of the Desert Water Agency on April 16th, 2024 at 8 o'clock. I'd like to call it to order. Just some housekeeping for those of you who are participating virtually. If you could mute.
Recording in progress.
Sorry, shall I start again? I'll start again. Good morning and welcome to the regular board meeting for Desert Water Agency, April 16th, 2024 at 8 o'clock. Calling this meeting to order. First, I'm asking those of you who are joining virtually if you could mute your microphones until or unless you're ready to speak during public comment. And those of us that are in the room, if you could mute your electronic devices so to not disturb us during the meeting. I will call on directors in the following roll call order: Director Grasha, Director Bloomer, Secretary Treasurer McKenna, Vice President Bowman, and President Ortega. And all votes will be conducted via roll call. And we now move to item number 2, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. And if I could ask Director Grasha to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item 3 is the roll call, and I'll ask Ms. Hoffman to lead us in the roll call, please.
Director Grasha,
Present.
Director Bloomer,
Present.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Present.
Vice President Bowman,
Here.
and President Ortega.
Present.
All present. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4, public comment for items not on today's agenda. This is a time for members of the public to bring up items that are within the jurisdiction of the agency but not on today's agenda. If you would like to speak and you're attending virtually, please raise your hand and we will have your speaker unmuted, or your speaker unmuted. And then if you are in the audience, if you come to the podium, we ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And as provided in the Brown Act, the board is prohibited from acting on items that are not listed on today's agenda. So have we received any public comment via email or prior to this meeting?
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. And I see that we have a hand up for Los Compadres.
Yes, hi. Can you hear me?
You're pretty quiet, but yes.
Okay, I'll
Okay,
speak up.
That's better. Yes, thank you.
Sorry.
Welcome.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Jim Gray. I don't know why it's coming up Los Compadres, but I live in Los Compadres. Thank you for the time. And unfortunately, I'm unable to come in person, which I would have happy to do. But mostly my comment is as a resident for over 10 years here in Los Compadres. And I have a dog that I walk every day, and I see quite a few homes that are overwatering. And I understand that there could be a little bit of water that goes off of a lawn. That's fine. But what I'm referring to are residences that have a flow of water, like streaming off of the sidewalk into the street, and that creates what my neighbors and I call the Sonora River, which flows down Sonora and then accumulates at Beverly and Sonora, and then goes down Beverly towards the wash in that direction. Quite a bit of water every day. And I have been diligent to use your website to send in photographs of ones that I found to be egregious. Again, if there's a little bit of water, I'm not going to sort of hound anybody, that kind of thing. It's mostly the repetitive, egregious residences. And so my comment is, I've been reporting quite a few properties for quite a while, and I have seen some progress, and I understand if I was receiving a letter from you all with regard to issues, I imagine I would want you to work with me as a resident and sort of be patient and sort of to figure this out. So I get that, and I would appreciate if that's your approach to work with my neighbors Some of I know, some of I don't know, to give them the time to sort of remedy sort of a situation where there's a significant amount of water waste. So that said, I just wanted to sort of make you aware of the situation in my neighborhood. I appreciate all the work that you do and managing a scarce, or not scarce, but a finite resource that we have, and it's a very important job that everyone is doing. But I'm not going to stop. I don't not it's not every day. It's maybe every 2 weeks or something where it's sort of there's known entities that I check on, so to speak. But that said, like, just want you to be aware as a board. And I'm sure there are people that are involved in this that are doing a great job and that they're managing sort of what they can on the resources they have and all of that. So I want to make sure that's clear as well from my perspective. I have my timer on my phone is at 2 minutes, 50 seconds, and I'm going to stop now. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Is it possible to have our conservation department manager follow up with this gentleman after the meeting?
Yeah, I'll speak with the clerk.
Thank you. All right. Unless there are any other comments for item number 4, we can move to item number 5, which is public comments that are for items listed on our agenda today. And similarly, we are asking you to keep your comments to 3 minutes. Are there any members of the public that would like to speak at this time regarding our agenda? If not, we'll move to item 6, which is our consent calendar. We have 4 items listed on the consent calendar for the board's consideration. And if there are any directors that would like to have one or more of these items removed, let us know now and we can set that aside for further discussion. Otherwise, I'll look for a motion to accept the consent calendar as presented.
Mr. President, I move that we accept item 6, the consent calendar as presented.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll look for a second.
Go ahead.
I'll second.
Thank you. So I have a first from Director Gracia and a second from Vice President Bowman. May we have a roll call vote, please?
Director Gracia,
Aye.
Director Bloomer,
Aye.
Secretary Treasurer McKenna,
Aye.
Vice President Bowman,
Aye.
and President Ortega.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Item 7 is a discussion item, and I'll ask our general manager to present his report. Thank you.
Thank you, President Ortega, members of the board. There is no written report on this. This is a discussion item for the board to discuss whether we would like to hold a special meeting for April 30th, special board meeting, since the May first meeting in May is canceled due to Aqua. And I know this is something that the board has considered whether to have this meeting, this special board meeting, because of the length of time between this meeting and the second meeting in May. And with that, I will pass it over to the board for discussion.
Okay, thank you. We'll start with Director Gracia. Do you have any comments or questions about this discussion item?
How many people, directors, are going to go to Aqua? 2, 1,
Oh, I will be.
2. No. So there are 3 staying behind. So we could.
But staff's going.
Pardon me?
Staff's going to Aqua also.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going.
Well, I can see how easy it would be just to dismiss the series of meetings, but my great concern is 5 weeks. I almost fear it becoming as if it could become a thing where that's okay, and it's 5 weeks is too long. But you could talk me into just pretending like it's just a one-off thing. But I remember at Mission Springs when I was on that board, they only had 1 meeting a month, and it wasn't enough. You couldn't get past all of the roadblocks that, so that's my only fear. I don't want it to become a thing where, 3 times a year we have, go 5 weeks without a meeting. That's my only concern, so.
Okay, thank you. Director Bloomer?
I mean, I think April, it kind of ends up nice because there's that extra, I think there's 5 Tuesdays in April.
Yes,
So
that's correct.
I would be for having a meeting on April 30th.
Okay, thank you. Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
Yes, I would too. I think 5 weeks is too long. If it'd been 4, perhaps we could skip one, but 5 is a bit long.
Yeah, okay. And Vice President Bowman?
I really could go either way. It's an anomaly, you know, it may, what does it occur, 2 or 3 months, a year, potentially, depending on how the things go. But
Right,
I'm going to be on vacation, so I won't be here anyway.
okay, right, regardless.
So we don't have a quorum, even if we wanted to, I guess.
We-
I thought when you said you.
30th we would, but not for
The 30th we would, but you wouldn't be here on what would have been the regularly scheduled meeting?
I will not be here on the 30th.
And the following Tuesday?
The following Tuesday, I will not be here.
Right, so we would not have a quorum regardless, right? Well, as I have asked about this a couple of times because I too am concerned about having a 5-week gap. I mean, the main reason that this is occurring is because of the Aqua Conference. It doesn't necessarily mean that every 3 months when we have that month that has 3 Tuesdays or whatever, that would be the case because there might not be a conference the following, you know, where the regularly scheduled meeting would have been that where we would have this issue again. But it probably will occur at least once a year, given that Aqua tends to be at the same time. But I would support having a meeting on the 30th as well. I think that 5 weeks is too long. And that seems to be the consensus of the group, if I'm reading the room correctly. Yeah. So I don't know if we need to take a vote on this or how we would like to proceed. Mr. Johnson.
I would believe you need to take a vote. However, I will defer to Mr. Riddell on that.
Yes, Mr. President, the board can take a vote if they want, or frankly, under the Brown Act, the president can simply call a special meeting singularly. So either way.
Oh, so we didn't have to have this discussion. I could have just done it on my own. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, actually.
Well, then I will call a special meeting for April 30th, Tuesday. Thank you. Right. We can move to item 8, which is the Secretary Treasurer's report.
Good morning, everyone. The operating fund, this is for March 2024 financial highlights. The operating fund received about $3 million in water sales revenue receipts, $33,000 in recycled water sales revenue receipts, and $195,000 in construction deposits. And I'm not reading that long list.
Okay.
We also received $60,000 from the Department of Water Resources as arrearage on the water and wastewater arrearage program. We paid out $1.4 million in accounts payable. Our year-to-date water sales are 4% under budget, revenues are 2% under budget, and our expenses are 13% under budget. So we're going to look at that budget again. But it's a good trend. Active accounts, we were up 11 at 23,557. And as I asked for last time, we had, during the month of March, 18 water accounts turned off for non-payment. And we do have an average of about 20 accounts per month turned off, which is 1/10 of 1%. So affordability is an issue, but it's not a huge issue at this point. The general fund received $195,000 in property taxes, $1.5 million in replenishment assessments, and paid out $1.3 million to the State Water Project, making a total for the year $17.4 million. The wastewater fund received $260,000 in receipts and paid out $165,000 in accounts payable. That completes the report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Secretary Treasurer McKenna?
Oh.
Yes.
I have one question. Have we received all of our payments for the arrearage program?
Yes, that $60,000 that was referenced, that is the entirety of it.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? All right. We'll move to item 9, which is the General Manager's report. Mr. Johnson, please.
Thank you, President Ortega. The first item here is on April 10th, the EPA announced a new national maximum contaminant level, or MCL, of 4 parts per trillion for PFOA and PFOS, so the PFOS chemicals as individual contaminants. and a standard of 10 parts per trillion for 3 other chemicals, which are known as Gen X chemicals. Aqua did put out a statement, advisory notice regarding this announcement. Just to highlight, they stated that utilities will have 5 years to come into compliance with this rule. And Aqua also stated that they previously supported EPA's effort to address the PFAS contamination and public health situation through setting drinking water standards. However, Aqua feels that the MCL is not feasible because the anticipated costs of complying are not adequately captured under EPA's cost assessment. Aqua also stressed the importance of maintaining the polluter pays principle. And under this principle, the entities responsible for PFAS pollution are held accountable for costs associated with cleanup, not water ratepayers. The agency, we did support this. We do support polluter pays principles. In August of 2023, we sent a letter to Senators Feinstein and Padilla encouraging them to support this principle. A source of the PFAS chemicals is fire suppressants, which were used at airports, and Palm Springs Airport is listed as a airport that did use these foams. So in 2019, 2020, the agency was ordered to sample for PFAS at domestic wells located near the airport. There were 14 total samples, and at that time, all of these samples were non-detect. In March of 2024, the agency did receive an issuance of general order from the State Water Resource Control Board, requiring that the agencies test for PFAS chemicals at all active and standby wells, which are a total of 27, and all samples must be completed by August 31st, 2026. The next item on the report is, it's an update on our pipeline replacement construction progress. I know this is something Director McKenna had talked about at our last board meeting, and I thought I'd kind of update the board on where we are currently with our projects. The first project is our 2021-2022 replacement pipelines. As of today, the contractor, which is Borden Excavation, has installed just under 2,000 lineal feet of pipe, and the 3 streets listed where pipe has been installed and tested is Ramon Road Footage, Compadre Road, and Camino Paracela. These 3 streets, all the main and services have been installed, pressure tested and disinfected, and they are in service at this time. There are some hydrants that need to be installed across Ramon Road off of the new Ramon Road Footage pipeline. However, we are going to wait until the Palm Springs City completes their storm drain project, which crosses down Ramon Road and it'll cross this area. We'd like the city to complete that work, and then we'll come back in and put our hydrant across the street. And for this job, the contractor has installed over 4,200 lineal feet of pipe in several areas: the East Calle de Carlos, East Camino San Simeon, East Camino Miguel, East Sunny Dunes, Calle Santa Cruz, South Broadmoor Drive, and Waverly Drive. All of the main has been installed in these streets. The contractor is pressure testing, started pressure testing on the 11th, and once pressure testing is complete and disinfection occurs, our crews will then tie those new mains over to customer service, or customers, and that is anticipated to be completed in the week of April 22nd, which is next week. And then Borden is expected to commence in Luring Sands Track beginning the week of April 15th. And once the contractor completes that work, they'll move over to the Sunmore Estates Track and east via Altamira between North Avenida Caballeros and North Hermosa Drive. So Borden is working fairly quickly. To date, just to summarize, over 6,100 lineal feet of pipe has been installed. The total project design is for 15,800 lineal feet of pipe. And the contractor, this was a $4.1 million project. The other project which is occurring is the Avenida Caballeros pipeline project. The contractor completed pre-construction work between Ramon and Tockwitz the week of the 8th, and water main installation is scheduled to commence April 15th, and they'll start at the Ramon Road intersection.
In fact, they already have, as I've witnessed yesterday when I tried to make a turn there.
All right. It's, I know our construction crews will be happy to have that pipeline in. With the leaks that occurred. So. The next item is our Desert Water Agency Spring Tour. The tour is scheduled for April 24th. It's open to the public with morning and afternoon sessions. Registrations are coming in, and the deadline to RSVP is on April 12th, which that was, I think, last Friday. Yeah. And we do anticipate a full bus. And the tour will be seeing Well 39, the Palisades Reservoir, our recycled water plant, and the laboratory at the recycled water plant. And while the bus is traveling from location to location, attendees will learn about DWA's history, water supplies, conservation, and more. And the next item, again, our May 7th board meeting will be canceled due to lack of quorum because of the Aqua Spring Conference. Our system pipe data, 32 leaks over that stretch of period. You can see Sunny Dunes, Via Altamira, and Camino San Miguel are in the Borden project, and then there's the Avenida Caballeros. And then Potencio is a street that is currently under design at this time from engineering department. The next item, human resource meetings and activities. Kind of light schedule, Ms. Hopping. I don't know if there's any highlights that it's pretty light. Did conduct new employee orientations. I believe we had 3 new employees in the construction department here, and doing a lot of Tyler implementation work. As you can see, there's 4 separate dates of Tyler implementation, so we're getting that process going. And then we're moving fairly quickly on that, and I've been told that we're on track to have that completed as scheduled. General managers meetings and activities. Again, a tribal mediation is a dominant meeting. 4 meetings over the past couple weeks here that I've been involved with. Did have our state water contractors Class 8 quarterly meeting. and had a technology transformation coordination meeting for preparing for our group meeting, which I believe is scheduled in a week or so. It's scheduled tomorrow. So with that, and with that, be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Johnson, Director Gracia?
I just, are you familiar with what the, on the PFAS ruling, what are the outside limits in terms of what has to happen if you don't meet the new MCL? Does it include shutting down the water system? Do you know?
I believe, I'm not fully sure. However, what I do know is that if you did hit samples that were above, I know that water systems have been taking those sources out of service.
Right.
And then there is then the treatment that to look to see how to treat for those chemicals.
And I think we've gone through the testing process on this at one point, and we don't expect this to have any real effect at Desert Water Agency. Has that changed at all, or?
We do, our 2019, 2020 samples all came back with non-detect. We are not anticipating to have these chemicals in our water. I can tell you that the testing procedures are very sensitive to, you need to ensure that there's no Teflon tape on any of the piping. It's a very sensitive test. And our lab director has worked out a procedure for our staff who are performing these tests.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Thank you. The reason I asked about the outside limits, what could happen, we were informed at a meeting that President Ortega and I attended a few days ago, Region 9, that the state is expected potentially to release their chromium-6 regulations this week. I wondered if you had heard whether that could happen, because she was quite sure that it would be, I guess, a surprise release. This was expected to maybe be done over the summer. And the proposed rules on that subject, you had 2 years to fix it or shut down the system. That is affected by it. Where I live, that would include shutting down my water supply, which is not served by Desert Water Agency. It's important to point out. And as far as I understand it, the entirety of Desert Hot Springs will be without water in 2 years if they don't meet these regulations. It's always astounded me that they have been, in my view, avoiding this likelihood, and we're at that last few days where they can ignore it. So I hope they can make my water safe. Thanks.
Thank you. Director Bloomer.
My only question, do you know when the city of Palm Springs is going to be done with their stormwater thing on Ramon?
It's
It looks like
I know
Just from a traffic standpoint, it's
Yeah.
really,
it's a pretty complex job.
Yeah.
And we are in communications with the cities regarding that job. I do not have a completion date for you. I would just recommend
don't take
don't
Ramon.
don't drive in Ramon for at least a month, if not longer.
I think it's actually expected to go into the fall, is what originally
Yeah.
had been programmed.
The schedule will be to go down Ramon and then up Farrell.
Oh, great.
So it's
The other
a
road I take
fairly
all the time.
long process. They were trying to work around the school schedule, the high school.
Gotcha.
So they'll going to be in
Up
that
Farrell,
area for a
which
while.
way, north or south?
They're going to head up north
North
Farrell,
Farrell.
up by the high school.
Fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? No? Secretary Treasurer McKenna? Any questions?
Yeah, going back to PFAS, I mean, when you see limits of 4 parts per trillion, I mean, it just is so little. Has our testing been sensitive enough to catch that? When
It
you say
is.
non-detectable, I mean, is it possible we just haven't got down to that sensitivity?
They are able to test to that sensitivity level. However, I will, as I said, the testing is very sensitive to the surrounding. You need to make sure you don't have any type of gloves that could potentially contaminate the sample. I know that Teflon tape will cause issues with that. It's extremely sensitive test.
I have a lot of Teflon tape in my house. Going on to the pipeline replacements, I'd love to see how busy we are on pipeline replacements. But I'm also a bit concerned that some of the really old stuff, Palm Canyon Drive South, 1938, it's coming up on a centenary. Are we 36? Some of these. Are we dealing with the really old stuff as well?
Yes, we currently have 3 projects in design. I don't know if South Palm Canyon is on the list. We can verify that. But one of our major priorities is age, and then, of course, unlined steel pipe.
Yeah.
So those tend to be hand in hand when it comes to the leaking situation.
Keep it rolling. Keep it rolling. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman?
Nothing from me.
Okay. And nothing else from me, so thank you. We'll move on to item 10, which is director's reports on meetings and events attended on behalf of the agency. If each board member that has had such a meeting could report out on the meeting or event and identify the date in the event and whether it was compensable. And we'll start with Director Gracia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a few, I guess. On April 3rd, I attended the State Water Contractors Audit and Finance Committee meeting. On April 9th, I attended the Coachella Valley Water District meeting, and they had a couple interesting items on that agenda. One was to authorize the general manager to enter into a $200,000 contract with Black and Veatch for risk assessment of their vulnerabilities on their computer systems and throughout their entire district. Also, interestingly, they restated the contract with their general manager with a 4.9% cost of living increase, took his pay to, let me get that right, $345,000 a year. On the 11th, I attended in your place the executive committee meeting for the Desert Water Agency. And on the 12th, I attended the Aqua Region 9 board meeting and tour of the facilities in Chino. And it's just to note that I think when I got on the board at Mission Springs in 2018, they were begging for people to serve on that board, Region 9, as I recall. And apparently their meetings weren't as active, or anyway, the advancement that has occurred on the Region 9 board during your time and the time of the current board has been remarkable when compared to 2018, as I understand it. So just want to extend my gratitude for that. It was an extraordinary tour. They're taking their wastewater plant to 23 million gallons a day. And we were able to see what it takes to go from, for instance, the plant being built over by me is a couple 100,000 gallons a day. Well, this one is 23 million gallons a day. And it's fascinating to see the difference in size and scale and the level of professionalism and so forth at that agency. So I appreciate being able to attend on behalf of the district, and thank you for all the work you guys are doing over there.
Director Bloomer.
Yes, I attended the Aqua Legislative Symposium on April 9th, 10th, and 11th. In addition to the symposium, I was also able to go with Bob Reeb and visit with Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia and Assemblymember Greg Wallace, and talk to both of them about conservation as a way of life, potential water bond, and just making sure that within conservation as a way of life that they build into their how much it's going to cost for agencies to come into compliance with that. And I also did have lunch with one of the policy people from Aqua, and she did mention that they're going to come out with the Chrome 6. It's
Good.
like almost done. So,
Fascinating. Thank you.
yeah. And I think the biggest thing they talked about Sigma at the symposium and how different agencies are coming into compliance with that and all the different pathways that you can do that from, full plans to alternative plans and reporting. And there's a few bills that might affect Sigma. One was a well permitting bill that no one at Aqua liked, and the person from the Sigma board was there, and so they were trying to put some pressure on him to not push that bill forward. And for conservation as a way of life, there was a lot of talk about how they're going to, I guess it's called I&I, irrigable but not irrigated lands, and how that's going to factor in. And Department of Water Resources has been asked to provide another round of data because they haven't provided data in a while. So before they move forward with their percentages and how everyone's going to come in to compliance. But that was the main talk about the irrigable, non-irrigated. And cost impact, especially for low-income customers, because most of the costs would fall into the customers and into our rates to come into compliance. So it was a good meeting, and good meetings with Garcia and Wallace. So it's a good trip. Thank you.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer McKenna.
I did not attend any outside meetings in the last 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you. Vice President Bowman.
Yes, the first one was our executive committee meeting that we had, Director Grash and myself. And then I had the privilege of attending the Mission Springs Water District board meeting yesterday instead of Director McKenna. And several things came out of that. First, save the date for Friday, June 7th, because the Nancy Wright Regional Water Reclamation Facility will have its ribbon cutting. That's June 7th, Friday. Second, pardon me, relating to the Regional Wastewater Treatment Reclamation Factory facility, I should say, MSWD is doing a eminent domain against Southern California Edison. Edison had some land that MSWD needed to run the transfer line, and they couldn't come to any agreement with SoCal Edison. So I felt this was very significant, and of course the board voted to do this. And in that process, I understand that they still have the opportunity to continue to negotiate and come up with a solution, which I hope they will. Seems like Edison has been a problem for a lot of development and situations. And this is just easement land along Little Morongo and a couple other little streets that MSWD needs. Thirdly, they voted to collect the sewer fees on the tax roll, and I'm very sorry. All right, I think I can do it.
Okay.
I'm getting all choked up about sewer. When I was on the board, we passed the resolution to put the tax roll, the sewer rates on the tax roll, and to save the district about $150,000 at that time. And now that they've got the process going, it's saving the district and all of us ratepayers about $80,000. Fourthly, there was discussion of receive and file the Mission Creek Subbasin Annual Report. And of course, that includes us, DWA and CVWD. And it was a great presentation. But there was some discussion, and, and I'd like us to be sensitive that we need to help or keep MSWD in the loop regarding the replenishment of the Worsley ponds. And I know our last board meeting, we were discussing when the ponds will be refurbished after the damage caused by Hillary. Do we have any update on that, Steve?
Yeah, the contractor is currently in the process of removing the soil that filled the basin, and I think tentatively scheduled to be completed sometime next month.
That would be great. And then do you know if we'll be able to flow water into that ASAP, or is there a schedule that we have for that?
There would be a schedule based on the water that Met has available. Again, we have to look at our percentages and so forth. And we would typically look at towards the end of the year since it's a smaller amount of water, we could meet those demand or that schedule over a shorter period of time. And usually it's towards the end of the year where we can do that.
Mm-hmm. I think the concern for those of us that live up in that aquifer area is that that aquifer has depleted a little bit, and it's not kept up to what the Indio Subbasin, for example, has been. So anyway, just something they're looking at that, and as a person that lives in that area, I am too. And lastly, this coming Saturday at Cabot's Pueblo Museum, we are celebrating Earth Day. I'm the president of that board, and MSWD is partnering with Cabot's and the city to create a fun activity in the morning. It starts at 10. Cabot's Museum is free for this day for anybody that wants to come and check out the museum. If you've never been there, Steve, it's worth going to, especially if you've lived in the valley and you've never come up to Desert Hot Springs and seen the Cabot's Museum. It's wonderful. But what is unique is that I'll just read the headlines here. Join MSWD, Cabot's Pueblo Museum, and the DHS High School Real Academy as we unveil a new student-created 3D model of the watershed. And that sounds fascinating to me, to see this watershed of our aquifers and how the Desert Hot Springs students have interpreted it into a 3D. I will be speaking. Ivan, the president of MSWD board, will be speaking. Scott Mattis, the mayor, and John Girardi from the Palm Springs Unified School District. We'll all be speaking about 3 hours each, so plan for the whole day. I'm kidding. It'll be just short welcome and everything, and it's a great day. It's going to be a wonderful weather day too to come up to Cabot's, and that's pretty much all I have. And that, of course, is non-compensable for me. But
Thank you. Right, so the first meeting since our last board meeting or event was for the City of Cathedral City. Their groundbreaking for their Dream Homes Park, which is also served by Desert Water Agency, that neighborhood. It was on April 3rd, and it's a non-compensable event, but I felt it was important for the water agency to be represented there. It is for those who may not know about Dream Homes, sorry, is that it is a neighborhood right smack dab against the boundaries of Palm Springs, on the opposite side of the wash from the rest of Cathedral City, so quite isolated from the city of Cathedral City itself, and what I would consider to be a very underserved neighborhood. And so for the last 10 years, I believe 9 or 10 years, that neighborhood and the city have been working to finally bring some sort of public facility other than the school, the elementary school that's in that neighborhood. There are really no other public facilities within that neighborhood. So this park looks like a really wonderful addition, and our agency will be supplying water to that. I think it's a 7-acre park. So that was a fun community event on that Wednesday morning. And then I did attend last week, from Monday to Thursday of last week, the NWRA Federal Policy Conference. The first full day of activities was really focused more on how to. We had a sort of preview or a review from Ben Hammond, who's one on the professional staff of the Senate Appropriations Committee. He's been working for appropriations for a very long time, and he gave us sort of a primer on how the system's supposed to work and how it actually really works, which was quite fascinating. And that was immediately followed by a panel with various members of Appropriations and then Natural Resources Committee on the House side, as well as a few members of different other organizations like American Hort and the National Rural Water Association, who spoke about really how to be more effective when you go to Capitol Hill and when you are visiting with your elected representatives, in terms of how you form your elevator pitch and what kind of things you focus on, and doing a little bit of research beforehand always helps. And that was quite enjoyable. I did have the opportunity to visit with Senator Padilla's office, as well as Representative Ruiz's office. During that time, there was a lot of time for visits to the Hill that was allocated. And then on the second day, the second full day of programming, we had a update from the Bureau of Reclamation with John Watts. And for those of you who know, John Watts served for many, many years in Senator Feinstein's office, and he was the water guy. And now he's at Reclamation, and that was good to see him back. And then we also had an update from, very timely, since on Wednesday, the EPA made its PFAS announcement, and the next morning we had somebody from the EPA to talk about PFAS. I think that was not planned that way, but it was very good timing. So much of what we've talked about already this morning, and that was a good conference. Not a huge conference, but I thought very informative. And then, as Director Grasha has mentioned, the following day, Friday the 12th, was the Region 9 board meeting at the Inland Empire Utility Agency in Chino. And it started with a tour of their, very informative tour of their, a plant that's currently in construction. It's actually being expanded. The existing plant is being expanded significantly, as Director Grasha has noted. This is not an inexpensive project. This is a $400 million project, or maybe even more than that when it all rolls out. And it's something they've been working on since, I think, 2018, if I'm not mistaken. But very impressive. And the amount of planning and coordination that goes into taking an existing plant and expanding it is actually, I can't even imagine how that works. But then I'm not an engineer. It takes some really good engineering team to pull that off. And they're also adding another facility adjacent to. They have a waste disposal facility where they take the biosolids and they convert that to compost, which apparently they sell. but they are expanding. They have a plant that's a little bit further away, and they're closing that one down and building a much larger plant, state-of-the-art plant next to this expanded wastewater treatment facility, which will also allow them to take food waste from various restaurants and so in the area, which I thought was a really nice addition. One of our board members for Region 9, James Morales, who serves with Eastern Valley Water, their plant, which is about to go online, is very similar in scale and scope to the one that we got to see in construction mode. And that, for those members of the board who'd like to attend, they are having their ribbon cutting on May 3rd. I believe it's Friday, May 3rd. And they have encouraged people to come and see that plant. I've got to tour that facility it's known as Sterling Resource Center. And I got to tour that last year with Aqua. And at that time, it was not operational, but it was incredibly impressive. But that, again, is a huge investment. I think that it's over $500,000. I'm sorry, it's $500 million. And then during the board meeting, we spent a lot of time talking about the Region 9 event, which will be on the topic of workforce development. There's still some programming meetings that have to take place, but that will be on Tuesday, August 13th in Temecula, being hosted in part by Rancho Water, which is the water agency in the Temecula area. And I understand that there will be a wine tasting event that will happen at the end of the meeting, if that encourages anyone to attend. And then we also did talk about the spring conference coming up in Sacramento next month, and potential for a guest speaker, so those things are just being finalized as well. And with that, I did want to follow up. Director Bloomer, you brought up something, and now I'm trying to remember what it was, and I wanted to follow up with that, but maybe we can do that offline. So we can close this part of the meeting. Thank you. And it looks like we can now move into closed session. Sorry. It just jumped right ahead. Anxious. Here, I'll give it to you.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
One is a correction. When I quoted the general manager's salary, went from $345,000 to $362,000. So that's important to two people on the planet, I think. The other thing is, during that meeting, they spent about 30 minutes wishing a fond farewell to one of their employees. I guess it's a secret. I don't know if it's a secret, but it wasn't a secret the other day at our Region 9 meeting. It seemed like everybody knew, and I was the only one that thought it was supposed to be a secret. But Victoria Lort, who I first met when she worked at Mission Springs Water District and moved on to Coachella Valley Water District, they spent about 30 minutes wishing her a fond farewell. It was very nice, almost probably worth tuning in for, and there were some tears, I think. So
okay.
Interesting. Another thing, I wanted to point out that Castillo Estrada, who is a director at Coachella Valley Water District, was, although it was an announcement for $100 million received by CVWD for work in the Eastern Valley to improve their water conditions, it was really a gathering to celebrate the work that Castillo Estrada did to make that happen. He probably the second most famous, I jokingly say it that way because I think I get higher ratings on the YouTube than he does, but depending on what happens during a board meeting. But he is probably one of the most effective water district directors in the state of California in terms of acquiring improvements to the system that will serve his constituents. And his involvement in the community is beyond measure. So I just thought it was worth pointing out that the For those that don't know Castillo, I would suggest that it would be in your interest to get to know him. And I think, is he our representative on LAFCO?
Yes, he currently is, and he is up for reelection.
Yeah. So anyway, I wanted to point that out for those that weren't familiar with him. And also, one of the things that was brought up at the Region 9 meeting was there's a new Senate bill that's floating around. I don't know how far along it's gotten, but it has to do with protecting tribal water rights in the state legislature, for, I guess, water districts for those that serve. And there wasn't much information shared on the subject, but it's a new bill. It's just been introduced, I guess. And I'd like to know more about it.
They just had their first hearing last week.
Do you know
in
anything
committee.
about what they're talking about?
I haven't read anything about it, but I know there was a.
Yeah, that's where I'm at on it. I would like to know more sooner rather than later on what they're, and so that we can begin to start a dialogue with our tribe on that bill and make sure that we do everything we can to protect the interests of the tribe that we represent and in our community. And with that, I thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Director Bloomer.
No comments.
Thank you. Secretary Treasurer McKenna.
Just a comment that I see ahead of us, obviously, challenges in the valley as a whole on the whole chromium-6 and PFAS, and I'm looking forward to good cooperation with Mission Springs Water District. I think we should do what we can to help them. They're doing some great work on water treatment, wastewater treatment, and I think we all will appreciate that. You know, the health and the safety of the aquifer is very, very vital to our economic future here in the valley, and we're all in it together. So I'm encouraged by the work they're doing, and I think we have some challenges, but we should cooperate on those. I hope we will in future. Thanks.
Thank you. Vice President Bowman.
Just a reminder, was already stated by me, I'm absent here from April 25th through May 27th. Yes, a whole month.
Okay.
My wife and I are celebrating 50 years of marriage and birthdays over in Europe.
Very good. All right. And I do recall now what I wanted to say based on a point that Director Bloomer had made, and that has to do with conservation, making conservation a California way of life, and that's actually on the docket for this evening at the Palm Springs Sustainability Commission meeting. They've asked for an update from Desert Water Agency about that, because I've been communicating with them in the past at previous meetings. So I will be there along with our conservation manager, Mr. Elliott, to give them an update and maybe push the envelope a little bit with the city of Palm Springs on things that they could do better. And with that, unless there's anything else, we can now move into closed session. I see 9 o'clock, so if at 9:10 we could meet in the boardroom. Thank you to the members of the public for attending today, and we look forward to. Welcome back to open session. I can let you know that we have no reportable action taken in closed session. And with that, we can go to item 14, which is adjourning the meeting. Thank you very much.